critics that Libra is more of a company-issued asset rather than a true cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. How are they different?
That's absolutely the point I made today, so I'm glad to hear you saying it as well. Really, what we focused on was three primary things. Number one, Bitcoin is decentralized. Nobody can control the network or remove users, censor transactions. Libra is not. Libra is managed by a group of private for-profit corporations and entities that are part of the Libra Association. So that's difference one. Difference two that's really, really critical, and particularly for lawmakers given the current economic environment, is that Bitcoin is its own asset. It's backed by nothing but its own scarcity and the demand for it. So there isn't assets held by any entity that give Bitcoin its value. In contrast, Libra relies on a pool of funds that are invested in currencies and other assets to give Libra its value. And this, as you can imagine, poses fundamental systemic risk to users of Libra, as well as governments around the world who may have their currencies in this sort of pool. And then the last point we really wanted to make with lawmakers is the Bitcoin network is an open source, permissionless software network that anyone can use and anyone can innovate on. And from a competitive perspective, it's open and accessible. In contrast, we have some concerns that the Libra network is not going to be permissionless. In fact, for the first 5 years, it's proposed to be permissioned, meaning that only a small group of individuals get to decide what happens. And that's just a few fundamental differences. But I'm happy to say that I think lawmakers really understood that point clearly. And I felt that it was surprisingly positive.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you got a sense that Congress was able to understand the differences that you were trying to explain, and whether all of this would have implications for the regulatory framework that, as you say, these two different assets should face.
Absolutely. I think we're starting to see more of the nuance and really the distinction between all of the different assets that people want to digitize using a blockchain start to emerge. There are cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that share the features I described of being decentralized, open, and permissionless. And then there are other types of digitized assets that people want to create an issue. And all of them are part of sort of this move to digitized finance and digitized markets and ecosystems. And I think the point here is that nobody's trying to judge Facebook's efforts as good or bad. Of course, they should be free to pursue anything and everything that they can that's permissible from the point of the regulators. But I think what we just want to do here is start to distinguish that cryptocurrencies are categorically not like many of these other assets. And I think today, particularly some of the representatives and congressmen and women that were there really made that distinction in their comments. And a large part of that is thanks to the last 5 years of education and advocacy that have been done by industry.
Melton, I am going to invite you to judge because considering this, well, almost apparent deception that you've described between a Libra and a traditional cryptocurrency, Facebook's motto of moving fast and breaking things, and of course all that scandalous business with Cambridge Analytica, put all that together, is Libra pretty much dead in the water?
I can't say if it's dead in the water. I do think what was made very clear today by the Financial Services Committee and the remarks of Chairwoman Waters, at the end of the session was Congress wants to know more. They want to understand what this is. And today in testimony, Mr. Marcus, who is representing Libra, evaded or did not really answer many of the questions that the members of the committee had. So I think there will be many more hearings. There will be much more discussion and deliberation. But I do think, we want America to be a place where people can innovate. That can be large corporations all the way down to many of the small entrepreneurs and early upstarts that I personally invest in and support. And so it's really trying to understand how do we make that possible and what is the right sort of framework to ensure that we minimize risk to the American people and the American economy.